Hi. So I just got back from a 4-day trip to Obudu Mountain Resort, the famous Obudu cattle ranch that we all heard about growing up. So I'm going to be sharing with you all my experiences from this 4-day trip, the good, the bad, the ugly, things to avoid, things to look out for, and the best way to actually enjoy yourself when you go on this trip. So join me, stay tuned. I'm going to be giving you all the tea. So first off, I live in Lagos, so my journey started from Lagos. I took a flight down to Enugu, and from Enugu we chartered a bus to Obudu. Now I say we because we're a group. We were in a group of about 12 people. Yeah, we were 12 people, and then the driver. Now, just so you know, going to Enugu is not the bulk of the trip. The bulk of the trip is the journey from Enugu to Obudu, because that's about 6 hours by road. I mean, they told us 5 hours, but in reality, we spent over 6 hours. And you drive from Enugu into Ebonyi before you enter into Cross River. And Cross River has so much landmass. It just feels like an endless drive, really. You just keep going. And the road is really good in Ebonyi State. I was very, very pleasantly surprised by how good the road is in Ebonyi State. But the moment we came into Cross River, I kid you not, it was like, yeah, that's how we were in the bus till we got to Obudu. Experience I had will not allow me to say exactly. I cannot say I have a first impression because I think the place grew on me, right? So because we didn't time ourselves well, and that's one mistake you should avoid. We arrived at night. We arrived by almost 9 p.m. and it was scary as hell because the road to the mountain top is a steep and winding hill. Like it winds so much. I mean, you might want to take a look and see just how the road winds. It's literally, at some point you find yourself doing literal U-turns to continue on the same road, and it's a hill, and it was at night, and a lot of us were there for the first time. The change in the weather, the change in everything was just coming at us at the same time. The moment we started climbing the mountain, the weather changed. It became so cold. There was this blast of cold air. The driver literally had to turn off the AC, and we opened the windows, and it just put your hands out. It feels like you're going to freeze. I mean, they had told us that the place was cold, but experiencing it firsthand was something else, for real. It was something else. However, we had someone in our group that had visited like twice before, so he knew people. He had contacts. They knew him. You understand? So apparently, he had the insight to book mountain resorts for us, and one at the lodge, at the governor's lodge. That's what it was called, the governor's lodge. So the governor's lodge was also a 3-bedroom. It was a 3-bedroom apartment, same as the mountain lodge. I'm going to do a brief tour of how each of these apartments look. So this is what the governor's lodge looked like. It had a really big parlor space, something like a dining table. It also had a really big kitchen that was, I mean, most of the things in it were not working, so I guess it wasn't functional. And then it had 3 rooms. What I liked about this particular lodge was the rustic design. It was giving some classy wooden vibes, you know. It was unique. So the first night, I spent the first night in the governor's lodge, and it was not funny. It was so cold. I thought I was going to wake up as ice block. You know, I was wearing a hoodie, I was wearing socks, there was a blanket, but it was almost like they were doing nothing for me. I wish I had gloves because my hands were cold, my nose was cold, my ears were cold. I can't count how many times I woke up at night to do this because I could hear wind howling, ooh, but I couldn't see where it was coming from. All the windows were shut tight, everywhere was closed. It was like the cold was seeping in from, and I can't even explain the things that I was feeling. You know, it was a night of terror for me because that being your first night in a location that you haven't been to before, and then you're getting that type of experience, I was very unsettled, and you know, it wasn't very easy for me to adjust because of that experience. However, joy comes in the morning, right? So in the morning, I woke up very hopeful. It's a beautiful place. I will not kid you. If you put aside the fact that the cabins and the resort itself is not as well maintained as we would love for it to be, Obudu is a beautiful place. I have literally never been surrounded with so much greenery or so much nature. So much, like, I felt like I was this close to the sky. I felt like everything was happening at the same time. You know, the fog, the clouds, everything was just around you. It didn't seem so far anymore. And you see hills rolling into each other. Then you see small settlements of villages. And trust me, videos don't even do justice. They don't capture enough of what these things, like, I noticed that when I tried to capture it, it wasn't giving me the depth. It wasn't. I wish I had a drone to capture these things so you guys can actually see what I mean. But we had activities lined up. We went to Angel's View or Angel's Valley. I'll find the correct word. And it was just amazing. It was beautiful. It was like I was conversing with angels. I felt like an angel myself. I'm like, at this point, let Dove just come to my head. Let the voice from heaven just say, this is my beloved daughter in whom I am well pleased, because it was so angelic. It was so beautiful. I had goosebumps throughout my duration there. I think the highlight of my trip was when we went to the Holy Mountain. Right, it was a hike. We went with our bus. The bus could only go so far, right? So we stopped at a point and we had to come down and hike the rest of the way. The initial hike was not a problem. We had a tour guide with us and he was telling us the story of how the mountain got to be called the Holy Mountain in the first place. There was a story about Cameroonians and the people of Obudu.
All the two parties and said, for how people have struggled for long and reach on top this mountain. This is the highest mountain from this village, and you are standing on top 1,786 kilometer height above the sea level. Wow. So since you are on top this very highest mountain, from today I call the two parties to become as one. So the two parties, he led a prayer of ancestors to them, and that is how they close the case. If you go down, you will see there are samples of bunkers where people.
Apparently, from the top of the Holy Mountain, you can see Cameroon. You can see the Cameroonian border. You can see schools. You can see the same way you can see the settlements in Obudu. You can see Cameroon from the top of the Holy Mountain. Unfortunately, the fog didn't let us see it during our time on the mountain, right? And then on top of the Holy Mountain, there's a box called the offering box, and you put your offering in it. Apparently the money from the box is used to train orphans in the village, right? So occasionally the locals will come up and they harvest the money from the offering box and it goes into the training of the children, which I think is a very, very noble thing to do, right? So yes. Then from the top of the Holy Mountain we could see the waterfall. We had been to a waterfall. I think this happened on like the second day. We had been to one waterfall previously. That's the day before. We had been to one waterfall, which was, I mean, you know, when you encounter something and you're like, oh, it's so beautiful, and then you are now shown something even more beautiful, even more magnificent from the top of that mountain. We were shown
where you are seeing those rocks. That is where we are going to go and swim.
Oh my
there
God.
is a pole down as you are swimming. That water will be falling on top you from that.
It's a Gaga waterfall, and I'm like, how are we going to get to this waterfall? That was the only thing on my mind. We are up here and the waterfall is down there. Is there like a shortcut or a slide or something? And the tour guy is like, don't worry, people used to go, so you can go. It's not that far. Once we drive to this way and then you use your leg to complete it. That was what he said. But guess what? I almost died. It was on this trip that Shege sat me down and told me, I will kill you. I saw Shege. Shege saw me. We saw each other because tears, blood. That was the highlight of my trip. It was such an adventure. It was so stressful, but it was also absolutely worth it because I digress. So we finished from the Holy Mountain. It showed us the what's it called, bunkers, where the people were kept to protect them during the bombing, during the war between the people of Cross River and Cameroon, and showed us basically the border and everything, and then we went back to the car and we began our journey towards the Igaga waterfall. So now I would have to do more of videos to show you because words cannot describe this part. At a point they were holding me like a baby in kindergarten, like this, to climb to here, you know, and I thought that was the hard part. I didn't know that Premium Shege was still waiting in front. There was a part where it was literally like so steep that you couldn't stand. You had to go down on all fours and crawl forward with your hand behind you supporting you while you keep going forward. It was so bad that if you miss one step, you're going to sleep and you just keep going. And there were no stones, there were no stairs, there were no rocks to hold your feet. And I wore the absolutely worst footwear for this. I wore slides, my brand new slides, brand new designer polo slides I received for my birthday a few weeks ago. If I show you what my slides look like after this hike, this is what the trip going down looked like.
Oh my gosh, what's that we are? You will go up that easy pass.
We hiked by foot, we were barefooted, and we did all of this, you know. Getting to the waterfall, it was like, you know, that feeling of when you put in so much work to achieve something and then you finally achieve it. It was very satisfying. I felt invincible. I felt like I could do this thing. I kept looking to the top of the height we hiked down from, and I couldn't believe I did it because I was so proud of myself. And then looking at the waterfall, the magnificence of it, it was amazing. I was awestruck. I can't count how many minutes I stayed just staring at the force of the water. Where is the water coming from? I had so many questions. I'm like, God, you do this one. God, you create. God, you create. You know, I just had so many things going on in my heart. I said serious prayers at that waterfall because I just felt like I've never been so connected to nature before, and I just felt like God was within reach, and if I whispered any prayer, it's gonna be answered. So I prayed. I felt like, you know, those times when my mother decided I went to the mountain to pray. Yeah, I felt like I was on the mountain and I prayed. I utilized this because, trust me, that is a once in a lifetime experience. I will never be doing that again. I kid you not. You know? So we swam, stayed in the water, which was ice cold, by the way. Very cold. Very refreshing too. There was just something about that place. And then we started our hike back to the top. Woo!
Igaga waterfall.
Everybody say Gagawa.
With this strength.
Forever. When we got to the top, the good thing, the God that saved us, is that we had made arrangements for some bike guys to come pick us up from one, we had a rendezvous point, right? And they came and they picked us up from there to complete the journey to where the bus was, because we were doing like Walking Dead. We were like walking zombies. It was a hike, and I've never gone on a hike before, so this was a very, very serious adventure for me. If you're a lover of nature, if you love, you know, if you're one of those people, if you're like me, that if you're going through stuff and you just take a walk in a place that has like trees, fresh air, everything, you automatically feel better, then trust me, the lack of maintenance of the lodges and everything, you will have nothing on your experience at Obudu Cattle Ranch. Now, on the issue of maintenance, the day before we left, was it that morning? Yeah, it was that morning. We woke up and there was no hot water, right? And we found out that the workers said they were going on strike and that they hadn't been paid for 20 months. 20 months, they hadn't been paid for 20 months. And then we started asking questions and we found out that whenever we pay to make reservations on the ranch and we pay to the official Obudu resort account, nothing comes to the workers. They just report to duty, they just report to their stations every day, and they're not getting paid. So apparently some of them took advantage of it and started doing the online advertising and all of that. So be careful not to get scammed. Be careful, do your research, do your findings, reach out to me and I will see what I can do if you intend to go on this tour, right? So most times you will find that you are paying to a personal account. So this was the people's way of helping themselves out. Although from the grapevine we found out that in a matter of some months, I mean, considering the change of administration, there's a new governor taking over, we heard that the resort is going to be privatized. So if private companies come in and invest heavily in it, like during the time of Donald Duke, I believe that that place can be restored to its glory. Let the canopy walkways function again. Let the cable cars function again. There used to be so many activities at that place. Like the pictures that we saw, the videos we saw when the ranch just came out. This was a prime tourist attraction. You know, there were mostly white people there, because the things in Obudu, the things we go to Kigali, Rwanda to do, you would literally have all those things that you travel for right here in your own country. You know, we really have to do better when it comes to maintaining our own. So hopefully in a few months things will be a lot better, but for now what I will tell you about my experience is that room service came in and cleaned every day. We head out for our tours around 11 a.m. They take our keys from us, and before we are back, they've cleaned up everywhere. They changed the beddings. There was hot water, although they had to come and turn on the hot water manually. I don't know why. I think there was a central heating system or so. I don't know how they did it, but they literally had to go from house to house, you know, not and say I want to turn on the hot water. I don't know what is they usually go upstairs to the lodge upstairs to turn it on. There was always water, there was always hot water. Things in Obudu are expensive, you know, at the top of the mountain, and I think that is because the stress and the cost of having to transport things from town is quite a distance from the mountain. Having to transport things from town to the mountain must be really, really hectic and expensive. I mean, we bought what was this? The bottle of a can of bottled water. I know we bought it at one ridiculous price like that. I can't even remember. Almost times 3 of what you would get it for in Lagos. You understand? So I can understand why things would be more expensive. It's either things are so expensive or they were just exploiting us as tourists, right? But either way, go prepared. Things are not as cheap as you would expect from a local place. And then secondly, the restaurant, everything is on pre-order. There's nothing like room service. There's nothing like breakfast in bed. There's nothing like I have a room, so it should come with complimentary breakfast. None of that. If you want to get food from the restaurant, you literally have to go to them, ask them, what do you have today? Do you want time? We went, they had yam and egg, they had ram stew, they had rice. I was really hoping to eat afang, but fortunately I never got to. I mentioned earlier that I stayed at the Governor's Lodge on my first night. The second night, however, we were moved to the mountain lodges. Now the mountain lodges, they felt more homely, if I say so myself. They were definitely warmer, and there were more people there, right? There were people in the other lodges. The first night there was a group. They were leaving the next day, so they were having their bonfire night, they were having grills and games, and then they invited us to join them, and it was a lot of fun. So I think one thing you have to take note of going on this sort of trip, I don't think it's an ideal honeymoon trip or just me and my partner vacation trip. Go with a group, a fun group, people that know how to have fun. And trust me, you won't feel any of the other inconveniences. I didn't feel it. At the point I actually started to, and I thoroughly enjoyed my trip. If I would say the truth, if I tell myself the truth, I thoroughly enjoyed my trip. So I advise you to go with a fun group. Most of the activities are better enjoyed when you're in a group. Imagine if I went on that hike alone or with one person. I go fence for road. But yeah, there's provision for gas. I don't know if it was just because of the connections we had, but we were able to speak to some people, and they made provisions for gas, cooking pots, cooking plates, utensils, cutleries. We sent a delegation to town to get us foodstuffs. We bought noodles, we bought pasta. I mean, you not go on vacation and start cooking soup now, so we just bought things that we could make do with. Those times when those pangs of unsuspecting pangs of hunger will just attack you, so you have something to use and whole body. And you're going on this type of trip, I would advise you always have your stash with you. I don't go anywhere. If you've been following me for a while on Instagram, I don't go on any trip without my stash. I always go with enough snackables, right? Whatever it is. If you're doing fit farm, you can get coconut chips, proper coconut, dehydrated coconuts, the one without all these other mede coconut chips. You can get oat cookies. You can get, there's some healthy snacks, right? You can get granola bars and stuff like that. You can get chin, you can get plantain chips. You should always have these things, because when the distance from one place to another, if you're not with a boss, trust me, and you're walking, you will get tired, you'll get thirsty, you'll get hungry, you get peckish, and you would want to snack on something. And it's not a matter of, I'm going down the road to buy something. There's no down the road you will fall off a cliff. But yeah, go with your stash. What else? I think that the best time to go on this trip is this period, May, June. April, May, June. I mean, we spoke to one of the locals, and she told us that we were very lucky, because out of the 4 days we spent, we saw sunlight on day 2, and on the day we left, we saw sunlight. And here, maybe because of how close it is to the sky, we're literally on top of a mountain, right? Because of how close it is to the sky, it's not even 5 a.m. yet, and the sun is out. The first day the first night I spent on the mountain resort, I was sleeping, and then I opened one eye, and I'm like, who's flashing torch in my eye? I know that it was sun that has come out. By what time? 5. Why? The next night I closed all the windows. I don't no freaking sun should wake me up, because I mean we usually had late nights because we would do games nights. We would always light a fire, come together, sing, dance, play games, concert, lemon. We had an in-house DJ and hype man. Literally, let me show you a clip. Like I said, go with a fun group. Paying pictures, one of the perks. You get beautiful pictures. People do not believe that it's our own. It's Nigeria. Yes, you know, when I started rolling out the pictures, where is this? What country? It's Nigeria. I don't go nowhere. It's your country. You know, it's a beautiful place. I will not lie to you. Amazing place. Stressful, but it was worth it for me. So I went on this trip and I knew that I was not going to just give out this tea on Instagram. I have been wanting to create a YouTube channel for a long time, and I just went for it. This is how I do most of my things. If I plan too much, I might end up not doing it. So I just went for it, and this is it. So watch my video and subscribe. You know, I'm gonna be coming on here to share some more gists as time goes on. The channel is going to be all about lifestyle, travel. My friends know me as Ajala or Jegede. I would never pass up on an opportunity to travel, you know, experience a new place, a new culture. Yeah, I love culture so much, and you know, a new experience is something I would always be willing to invest in. So there's going to be a lot of content on that, and life in general. So please subscribe to my channel. If you know anyone planning to go to Obudu, you can send them my channel. For those of you who know me personally, do not hesitate to reach out, and I will give you the contacts that I have if you plan to go to Obudu anytime soon. So cheers. Thank you for watching. If you watched till this point, you are amazing. Thank you so much, and I hope that you subscribe and, you know, watch my subsequent videos. I hope you had fun. Thank you.